Hello and welcome to another edition of The Conversation right here on News Central TV. I am Rita Omodia. On this program, we get to discuss topical issues on the political front burner across the African continent. Now, today on The Conversation, we will be analysing the political situation in Tunisia and the proposed new constitution, which is generating reactions across the country. And finally, West African leaders have announced the lifting of sanctions against the military regime in Mali. Right now, we begin with situations in Tunisia as the head of Tunisia's Constitution Committee has condemned a proposed constitution published by the President Kais Saied, claiming it reinforces opposition fears that Saied was seeking to impose a unilateral charter and paves way for a disgraceful dictatorial regime. The former constitutional law professor who was named by Saied to draft a new constitution for a new republic said Saied's version was dangerous and did not resemble the first draft proposed by the Constitution Committee. Tunisia's president published a planned new constitution on Thursday that he will put to a referendum next month. Kais Saied has ruled by decree since last summer, vowing to remake the political system when he brushed aside the parliament and the democratic 2014 constitution in the step opposition parties called a coup. Now I have joining me live Heythem Smida-Guesmi, a researcher in rural politics and peasant struggles from Tunis, Tunisia. Glad to have you join us on the conversation.
Thank you.
So let's start with this new draft. Let's take it step by step. Now, under the new constitution, Heythem, the government would answer to the president and not to parliament, though the chamber could withdraw confidence from the government with a two-thirds majority. Now, how democratic is this proposition?
Well, I don't think that we can really assess it on the basis of democracy because finally a president is elected and the parliament also is elected. But the problem here is about what are the decisions that will be taken. Because even though before when we had a parliament, an elected parliament, there have been a lot of laws and a lot of decisions that were made by the government that didn't really have the popular agreement about them. So the problem, I think, is not that technical because in both ways, as far as we know right now, as the people, we don't really have the means to oppose laws and measures, whether it was controlled by the parliament or the president.
Now, Heythem, if you're looking at how democratic it is, we know that 7 2 terms of 5 years each, that's what we have. But the president has said it can be extended when there are fears of imminent danger to the state. Now, we've had a series of constitutional reforms going on in other African countries. We saw in Togo, we saw in Uganda, where presidential term limits were actually cancelled. Now, he's saying that he will serve 2 terms of 5 years each, but will extend it if there are fears of imminent danger to the state. How justified are these actions?
I don't think there would be any justification for such actions because finally it's the electoral democracy is a game and games have rules. And I think that when we put a lot of exceptions to rules, we come to a moment where the stronger, the wealthier, or the more powerful person or entity can take off these rules.
All right, Heythem, if you're looking at this, because you're saying now that his actions are not justified, and it reminds us of the 2011 Arab uprisings that happened in Tunisia, where a lot of demonstrations, about 28-day demonstrations, were done against the former president, Zain Ben Ali. Do you think that Tunisia is going back to that era?
No, I don't think so, because historically and geopolitically, I don't think that the regimes of the pre-2010 era in the whole world can come back again, especially to countries that had revolutions like 10 years ago. The thing is right now is that we have a globalization of a system, which is the Western one, and especially the American system, where we have like a legislature chamber where we have like two or three parties that have problems just about one or two issues that are not really different. And that's the theatrical way of doing politics. So I think we can go back to Ben Ali era. We have like a new era right now, and it will have its own challenges and it will have its own problems and means of opposition and governing.
Now, talking about new era, can you tell us more about the creation of Council of Regions as a second chamber of parliament? This is a new division that Kais Saied is bringing. Now, are there laws guiding this, and what powers do you think this chamber, this second chamber of parliament, will have?
This second chamber is just another institution that is disconnected from reality, because finally we can have like 1,000 institutions, but as long as we don't really put material measures towards the tasks of these institutions, we won't get anywhere. We can call them regional council, we can call it whatever, but they don't change.
Heythem, can you hear me? All right, we still have with us Heythem Smida-Guesmi while we still try to get the connection from him. And he was talking about the Council of Regions, which has been proposed by the President Kais Saied. Now, Kais Saied has proposed a new constitution of which a referendum will be placed by the citizens on July 25. And so far, there has been a lot of condemnations on this proposed constitution in which a lot of people, especially the head of Tunisia's Constitution Committee, has condemned it and saying that this draft is different from the one he actually proposed to the President Kais Saied. Now, the head of Tunisia's Constitution Committee is one of President Kais Saied's closest allies. So with him saying that he is going away and disavowal from this new constitution, which has been placed by the President Kais Saied, it's now placed to show if Kais Saied still has enough votes to go with this new referendum that is supposed to happen on July 25. Now, we still have with us Heythem Smida-Guesmi, and earlier on, we were talking about the Council of Regions, and you said these are just institutions, and you talked about how capable they are to influence the laws. Now, looking at the Council of Regions, and of course, all what Kais Saied is proposing, he also said that in a new electoral law, there are speculations that voters would only choose candidates as individuals, not as members of political parties. How true is this?
This is his promise since he was in his electoral campaign that started since 2011, when it wasn't a visible electoral campaign. But finally, that's what he's proposing, and since his election. That political parties don't express people's opinion, etc. So the elections on persons is the new democracy.
But how are the people reacting to this? Do you think it will actually work in Tunisia for people to vote as individuals and not under political parties?
We need to try it, because even voting for political parties, it started only 12 years ago in Tunisia, 11 years ago. So we need to try to judge, as I told you, because political parties weren't authorized in Tunisia before 2011. And we had, since 2011, we had like 6 elections, I guess.
Okay, so we'll see how that pans out. But still looking at the powers of the President Heythem. Now, we know that judges have been on strike for weeks in protest at Saied's moves to curtail judicial independence. Now, this new constitution stipulates that judges, police, army, customs officials would not have a right to go on strike, while also granting powers to the president to appoint or sack government ministers and appoint judges. So, Heythem, what do you think will be the fate of the judicial sector with this new proposition law?
The judicial sector in Tunisia have always been a place where corruption and dictatorship and everything that has happened in Tunisia, it was there. From the cases of torture to the cases of money laundering, etc., etc. So I think that the real fight right now, the institutional fight right now between the president, the political entity, and the judicial system, which is a technical entity, is huge because that's the dark box of Tunisia. So I think the fact that judges don't have the right to strike is a bit like a personal problem between the president and the judges. And it could have been done differently, not in the constitution. This is my opinion. But finally, there will be like a lot of fights. And if there will be no measures, no constitution will change the situation.
And how do you think the judges will react to this? They've been on strike for weeks now. And you said that probably the Kais side should have handled this differently. But on the judges' part, do you think that the strike will continue despite the proposition put in this new constitution?
I don't think they will stop their strike because finally it's just a constitution. I think we will need to see the next step of my side towards the judges. But I don't think they will stop their strike. They won't be afraid, I mean.
And has there been any verifiable data proving his claim that the judges have been corrupt?
I didn't see that, just to be honest about it. But when I saw the list, there are a lot of numbers, a good number of judges who were always accused of corruption and the money laundering and evading terrorists, etc., etc. But I don't know about the whole list of the 70-something.
Now, Heythem, if the judges are to be appointed and sacked by the president, do you still feel that there will be safe dispensation of justice in Tunisia? Do you think that people will still get fair trial and those who are opposed to the president will also get fair trial in Tunisia?
The problem with trials in Tunisia is not just about the judges, who put the judges, is it the president or anybody else, even though we can vote them popularly, the judges. The problem first stands in the power relationships in our society, that the wealthy will get always good judges. And second of all, that we have a penal system that is first archaic, that goes back to the last century, and second of all, we don't really have a judicial system that is social and human.
All right, talking about penal system that is a bit archaic. Now, still in this draft constitution, the president has been given the powers to present draft laws, have sole responsibility for proposing treaties, and even drafting state budgets. Do you feel the president is right on this to be able to draft state budgets?
Yeah, he did it before. He did it the last year. You see, right now is the president just does everything, and we don't really know about the struggles that he's having. We don't really know about who are his allies, who are his enemies. I think it's a transition, and that's what he calls it already. It's a transition, and for now, he can't do everything and anything.
All right, thank you so much, Heythem. Right now, do hold on that thought. We'll go on a quick break. And when we come back, we'll still be on the conversation where we deal with political stories around the African continent. Do stay tuned.